Welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 116, recorded for Friday, June 7th, 2019. My boy graduated this week, and for you new listeners there, thinking to yourselves, you sound kind of young to be having a kid graduating high school. I'm just going to cut you off at the pass right there. No, he's not graduating high school. He's graduating, not middle school, not even junior high. No. We're going in the way back machine here to preschool. 4K. They've decided that children need to have a graduation ceremony and celebrate the mediocrity that is going through life here. Now, in my experience, and as it was with my son here, 4K is still an optional thing. It's not something you have to send your kids out to do. It's not something they need to partake in. A lot of folks use it as a cheaper form of daycare, something that gives the kid, one, not only a place to be, but two, gives them a little bit of a head start on their educational career. They learn super important social skills and start working on their letters and numbers, and really, when I think of where my son is now, he is light years ahead of where I was as a kid. And I went to, preschool, did the whole kindergarten thing. I didn't really start reading until, first grade, but knew my alphabet, knew my numbers before that. He's already got all that shit down. He can't read super great, but he can definitely recognize words, and that is huge. I couldn't even write my own name going into kindergarten, but, to be fair, Christian is kind of a longer name, and it's a little bit much to throw at a young, dumb kid. So, he has a graduation ceremony, and it falls on me as the father to attend said graduation ceremony. Now, he has older sisters. His mom came from a previous marriage, and I had been to many a musical and pageant and school function on account of them, and I had always viewed them with kind of the same disdain. Not the girls themselves; they were delightful, but no, the way everything was kind of thrown together. It's very hacky and just very slapdash. They're kids. They're not going to be super great at what it is they're doing, be it, playing music or singing. And singing's just the worst. I can't stand kids singing things from, Christmas albums, I guess, would be the worst in that regard. There's something about their tiny prepubescent voices that are just god-awful. So, I'm kind of harsh when it comes to these things. And, this week, I guess, was a lesson in that, because this is the first time where I've had any, skin in the game. The first time I've had any vested interest in the proceedings. So, it's at 9 a.m. They want the kids there about 8:30, so his mom had already taken care of that. My job is just show up at 9 a.m., watch the thing, do the typical meet and greet afterwards, and get on about my day. But apparently there were other plans in store for me. So I get to the school, and I am shocked and astounded at the amount of traffic there. Parking lot and subsequent road are just filled with cars. And I think to myself, he goes to a small school. It's a K through 8. Out in the middle of nowhere, like literally in the middle of a cornfield, this school is. But there's a lot of people here. There shouldn't be that many kids in his class. And I think, well, he only goes like half day. It's probably the other half of the class there. But then as I'm walking up and I'm behind this elderly woman, I realize, it's not just going to be the parents, it's going to be the grandparents, aunts and uncles, and whoever else could be shoehorned in on a weekday morning to come see this. So saunter on up, and I'm looking through and I'm reading the itinerary. just double checking, making sure I got my shit on point. Like, all right, I'm here at the right time. I'm going to the right entrance. I know, is it at the gymnasium? Which gymnasium? And I read in there, it says formal attire is preferred and encouraged. And I think to myself, well, fuck. Had I known they were going to be taking this 4K graduation so seriously, I would have put on the 3-piece. But as it stands here, I'm a typical schlubby dad. I've got my jeans, my slip-on shoes, Spider-Man t-shirt, and then 90s appropriate flannel t-shirt with, not flannel t-shirt, but flannel shirt, unbuttoned and rolled at the elbows there. So, I'm looking real fine. But no, that's beside the point. Nobody else dressed up. I think it's to more side with the kids and make them feel comfortable because, of course, they're going to be the ones that are dressed up. And it made me start wondering at that point, is like, oh, well, what's my own son going to be wearing? And are they going to have the little gowns and caps? My ex hadn't said anything to me about it, and not that she says anything to me about anything. I only found out about this because, I like to be involved with my boys' schoolwork and stay on top of things. So it's a surprise to me. I don't know what I'm walking into here. But I walk inside, get my pamphlet from one of the middle school kids there, handing out said pamphlets. Gymnasium is about half full. You know how they typically do it, where you got the stage on one end of the gym. They've got all the folding chairs taken up about half court there, and then they've got the bleachers all pulled out. So the folding chairs are all filled up, but the bleachers aren't totally full. There's still some good seats, and I want to make sure that I can sit somewhere that I can see my boy, because I don't give a shit about the rest of these kids. They could go fall off a cliff for all I care. I'm there to see, the man of the hour. So I got to get a good prime seat. So find a spot on the bleacher where, the eyesight, I got about the right row or two of where the stage would be. I guess if you're lining people up, I'd be missing that right row. So I'm taking a gamble, but if it's something where I can't see my kid, I've got a backup plan in place. I can move on down and I am up there. So as I sit down, I'm looking around the audience. I had gotten there about 5 minutes too. It's not a whole lot of time left. Should be starting, and then make eye contact with the ex, and then sitting next to her are her parents, who have just been absolutely delightful to me since our breakup. So got that going for me, and it's at this time they start flashing the lights in the gym, trying to get everybody to quiet down. And coincidentally, this is the time that my brain, it's like kind of taps me on the shoulder gently. He's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, it goes. So, I'm gonna do you a solid here and give you a bit of a heads up, but you're gonna start crying. I'm sorry? Yeah, you're gonna start full on bawling like a baby here. So you've got about 5 seconds here to compose yourself and try and get your shit together and formulate how you want to handle this. I'd really like if we don't do that. It's too late. And then the tears just start pouring down my face. Like, I completely unbidden. I don't understand it. I'm trying to process it. I pride myself as a person who can usually keep his emotions fairly together. Several years ago, I was in a really bad spot, and there were a lot of emotional moments. My ex and I had just split up. I wasn't seeing my son. Both my grandparents had died that year. Just a lot of stuff going on, and my emotions were kind of all over the place. But since then, I wanted to say that I'd gotten to a point where I was before all that shit happened, where I was able to keep composure and kind of put on a stoic exterior, and not necessarily keep people out, but make it so that I didn't show outward emotion too much, kind of keep that shit locked down. And because it's one of those things that, you don't want to burden people with that. People don't give a shit too much. Now, not to say that I haven't had breakdowns, but suffice to say, in the 2 years that Rachel and I have been together, she has never seen me cry. I've only recently started sobbing in my sleep because my dreams be assholes, yo. But she's never seen me like conscious and crying. So again, I like to, think I have a pretty good lockdown on that, but not that day. No, that was the morning where the waterworks just kept coming, and I was doing my best to choke it back, and as long as like my nose didn't start running, because that's always my thing. Is one, I'm an ugly crier. Two, when I really start going, my nose starts running, and I had no tissues, I had no handkerchief. All I had were shirt sleeves. Like, I don't want to be that guy, that weird, near middle-aged guy sitting on a bleacher at a pre-K graduation ceremony, wiping his runny fucking nose on his sleeve, while his ex and former in-laws look on in just absolute disdain. Like, I don't give a shit what they think about me, but I don't want them to, kind of spy me in a moment of weakness. I want to feel good and strong and in front of them, like I've got my shit on lockdown. And just having an emotional outburst like this isn't helping, because through my tear-stained eyes, I'm scanning the audience and nobody else is crying. Like, fuck, it hasn't even started, and I've already started. And I'm trying to process it, like, why am I doing this? Think about anything to make this stop, like naked grandparents, dead puppies, murder, just get this to stop, and none of it's working. Like, my internal state is in total disarray, and I am having a full-blown meltdown at just, I don't know. I've thought about it since, and I guess it's just an outpouring of emotion. It wasn't anything logical, like, oh, this is my son, he's growing up. He's no longer, the little boy that I've always known him as. He's starting on this path to becoming a man. Like, I am super proud of him. School has been phenomenal. It's been a wonderful experience where he has learned so much, and he's so happy with how much he's learned and how smart he is, to the point where when I can't tell him the names of ships that only had 3, 2, or 1 steam stacks, I can only name the one ship that had 4, and that was the Titanic, that he will call me out and say I'm stupid. Like, I'm super proud of him, and I guess it's just that. It's that overwhelming emotion that comes surging forth. Like, here's all this time and effort that I've put into this kid, and it's not even that. It's just, I don't know. It's my boy. And my fucking asshole brain's like, all right, time to show some emotion here. And I did. I wept through the entire fucking thing in a half hour after it had ended. It was like a 45 minute procession, because it was the lights come back up, they pull the curtains, and you see all the kids standing there on on their little stages, like they have the tiered risers. And I find out it's like 3 pre-K classes. They have the AM, they have and 2 PMs, I think it was. And they have the teachers come up and they're giving their speeches about how much the kids have grown, and how they think, like, some of them are under the impression that 5th grade is starting tomorrow. Just all that bullshit. And then the kids do 2 songs. And I mentioned that I can't stand it when kids sing. But when you're staring up there and you see your own little, like, mini you, just, one, he's not even, like, singing half the shit. He's going through all the hand motions that the music teacher's, like, telling them to go through. And he's, like, not singing most of it, but when it hits the point for the chorus, yeah, bam, he's like a little bar drunk. He doesn't know the lyrics, but he knows the chorus, and that's when he'll participate. So I'm just sitting there in awe of him doing this, and it's not helping. Like I'm really just trying to, trying to figure out, do I lean into this? Do I keep thinking about, like murdering hobos to try and get myself to stop crying? I don't know what to do here. And I focused on kind of him, and it's like, whatever happens. Like, it's understandable that you're crying. So they sing 2 songs, and then they get into the proceeding. Like, okay, well, we're going to go through it class by class, and we'll essentially call out the kid's name. They'll tell you then what the kid wants to be when he grows up. And then the kids all stand there holding their tiny diplomas. So you hear like the typical stuff, like, oh, he wants to be a farmer. He wants to be a firefighter. This one wants to be a soldier. She wants to be a princess. And then you have like the oddball ones, like, oh, yeah, she wants to be a mom and work at Target. It's like, okay, you want to get knocked up and get into an entry-level position. Like, I understand that this is going to change multiple times. They're not locked in. They didn't make this one choice. Like, yeah, when I was 5, I decided I wanted to be a mom who works at Target. So at 18, the high school jock knocked me up. We got a shitty apartment. I immediately began my career at Target, and then the rest is kind of history. Now, none of this had been, like, my son had never brought any of this up beforehand. So maybe it was just something like they talked about at school in the week leading up to the graduation. But my son's never really told me, like, oh, here's what I want to be when I grow up. Like, I have my own theories and, like, hopes and dreams, like any parent would. Like, oh, yeah, you're going to be essentially Commander Shepard, and you're going to be, going to Mars and making friends with the big Krogan Rex, and your best buddy will be Garrus, and you're going to go on these awesome space adventures together. But my son, they call his name, and he's like, oh, so-and-so. He wants to be a janitor when he grows up. I'm like, if there was anything to knock me out of the cycle of crying, it was just the absolute what the fuck moment of janitor. Where the fuck did that come from? Like, there's not anything wrong with being a janitor. Like, maybe, it's a good, honest profession. But it's like, where did this come from? Like, just totally out of left field. And as I'm talking to Rachel after the fact, she's like, oh, maybe he's just friends with the janitor. And then my paranoid brain immediately jumps to, well, is the janitor diddling him? Like, is it this weird creepy janitor situation? Like, hey, you want to come check out the broom closet? I'll show you the boiler. And then he's like fucking molesting my kid. Because that's the stereotype that's already in my head. It's like, oh yeah, the janitor is the fucking diddler. But then I have to think back, no, asshole. Like, you were always cool with the janitors growing up. You had Bus Hansen at your own grade school, and he was everybody's favorite janitor. He's just this really old guy. He went down to Antarctica at one point, and everybody loved him, especially like the young kids. Like, at that school, if you were kindergarten through like 5th grade, you knew who the fuck Bus Hansen was. He was the goddamn man, and here is your best friend. And it's probably a similar situation at this school. But it completely came out of left field and threw me. And it's like, oh, janitor. So they get through all that, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to walk your kids around back to the backside of the gymnasium. You guys just sit tight. Your kids will essentially find you. So I hang tight because, again, this is a half full gym of people, and they're going to be looking for their kids, and I know my ex and her parents are going to be getting to them first. It's like, I'm just going to hang tight. So I sit back, and, I keep pulling my glasses off and wiping the tears from my face, and then I see him kind of walking up towards me in his little, khakis and button down shirt, and, go down, give him a big hug, tell him how proud I am, and he immediately then repeats, like, oh yeah, I have 90 days of no school and I want to be a janitor. It's like, no shit. Just heard all this. But okay. What's that? You got bubbles in your hand? That's awesome, buddy. I'm so proud of you. Here, let me get a picture. We're checking off the boxes at this point. So, what are you going to be doing later today? I don't know. Fair enough. All right. Well, you go have fun with your mom and your grandparents. I'm going to go be, typical deadbeat dad who doesn't have you this weekend. So I'm going to go get some McDonald's and then nap for 5 hours because I don't know how to process emotion correctly. And so, yeah, that was it. And I guess that was my come to Jesus moment, was realizing what the reasoning is behind having these little ceremonies, where I don't think it's so much for the kids as it is for the parents to celebrate these hallmarks of their children growing up. And I mean, I'll tell you to your face that I think they're dumb as shit, but I'll be goddamned if that didn't fuck me up on some deep level. So yeah, hopefully they don't do one for every year of school, because this shit's gonna wear me out. It's gonna put me into an even earlier grave. But that's gonna wrap it up. If you have your own tales to tell about kids graduating, or you want to talk about anything else, shoot an email over to theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Again, that's theunwashedasses@gmail.com. And of course, you can always, support the show. Tell a friend. Let them know they can get it wherever they get podcasts. And if you want to take it up a notch or two, you got over to the store over at bit.ly/0and09_store. Fuck, that is just, it rolls right off the tongue. Anyway, we have links to the store in the show notes and in the Patreon. So if you see a sticker or a print or a shirt, something you like, go ahead and buy it. I just got my shirt in this week, and it looks pretty dang awesome, if I do say so myself. So get your own shirt over at the store, and that's going to wrap it up. We will talk to you next time. Blood for the blood god.